Hello and welcome. My name is John Hobby. Welcome to the Great Poker Chip Adventure. Today we start out with a question. What is your favorite poker app? It's awesome, right? I have 3 here. I used to have more: Celeb Poker, Zynga Poker, and World Series of Poker. These were just the free versions. I haven't bought any chips yet. You know how chip counts work. It's just a fun game. The reason why I have 3 of them, by the way, is because sometimes one of them will be kind of low population at a certain time of day, and I'll just open up another one and I can find a whole bunch of people to play with. So it's convenient to have more than one. And write a comment. Tell us what your favorite poker app is at the moment. All right. Today we're talking about some scroll poker chips. These are going to be slightly different than some other chips I've reviewed, like compression molded clay, or these are like plastic chips, you know what I'm talking about. So let's jump into it. We always start with quality control: weight, width, and thickness. I'll throw the numbers up right there for you. They're advertised as a 39 millimeter chip, 10 gram, and that's pretty consistent across the board. 39 millimeter chips are usually a little bit more than 39 millimeters, that referring to the width of the chip. So that's not really a problem. Let's talk about flatness real quick while we're here. Now, with ceramic chips, they have a very low static coefficient of friction, right? So they can be pretty slippery. So it's easy to tell if you have spinners just by spinning them. It feels like one of those will be, but anyway, so you grab the stack here, and then sometimes it's just better to squeeze the sides here. See if this will focus for you. Squeeze the sides, and once you remove some of these spinners, it does pretty well. Let's just grab our sample set here and see how that works. Squeezing from side to side. That one feels pretty good. Let's switch over to this one. I'm going to say these are average when it comes to flatness. You can see one of these is definitely not very flat. Pretty consistent though. I mean, lots of ceramics, because they're just this really hard plastic, have flatness issues, whether it be the texture of it. And speaking of texture, we should talk about that too. This has a really coarse checkering for a ceramic chip. Not sure if this is going to show up on camera. I might roll in a picture, but these are pretty aggressively textured. Not super smooth like some of the linen, like the old classic Chipcos, for those of you that remember. These have a very linen smooth feel, or like these tiki chips, right? Have that smooth linen texture. But this is consistent across the board, unlike Nile Club, but we'll talk about those in their separate video. So the texture is consistent, and that's what we're looking for: quality control. The dimples on the sides are very subtle on these scrolls. They're hard to see, but they are there. With any ceramic chip, you're going to have those dimples. That's kind of one of the defining features of a ceramic chip, so just expect that. But these are very clean compared to some other ones. The inlay, obviously, well, we're just going to talk, it's not really an inlay, it's printed on the chip. So those are very consistent, but you'll see that there are 2 things I want to mention here. Number one, they're not centered. And I was looking at this and it kind of was disturbing. I was like, oh no, look, here's a thick edge mark and then there's a thin edge mark. And then I started looking at some other brands, like, for example, Nile Club. Now, Nile Club hides it very well, and so I was looking at these, and at first I didn't really see anything, and then after a while I noticed, wait a second, how come this edge mark sticks out this far, but this one doesn't stick out as far? They're not centered either, because see how thin this edge mark is and how thick that one is? Huh, that's interesting. So even Nile Club, see, like here, look at this one. Look how thin that is compared to how thick this side is. So Nile Club, not centered either. Wow. Well, surely these tiki, these are borderline custom, semi-custom. And I was looking through these, and these are not centered either. I would find a chip, I'm looking through my viewfinder, kind of hard to see, but like this one, right? Look at the top, tons of green, and then way down here, very little. It's just not perfectly centered. Wow, is this across every single chip out there? My estimation is that look, even Nevada Jacks, okay? If they were all like that, that's fine. See all this white space over here? Very little here. You flip it over, even on the other side, it's different. So that's See, this yellow one's pretty well centered. So they're not consistent, not consistently centered. None of the ceramics I have here are consistently, centered. So it's average, unfortunately. But compared to some other ones that are kind of in the same price range, like these Milanos, maybe not quite as centered. So something to be aware of. To me, it doesn't bother me. It's not a game changer for me that these aren't slightly centered. Neither in any of those other chips I showed you, it doesn't bother me because it's not distracting while you're playing the game. All right, now, the other thing I want to bring out or mention, now these are kind of like the face edge marks, but the edge marks are not lined up either. All right, so let's see if we can find some here. So the 5, this is the top. So you can see here, there's kind of that yellow dot on this one. And then right here, the top of the 5 is lined up with kind of in between that yellow and that black one. And this one, it's lined up with that black mark. So the edge marks are not consistent across all of them. All right. Well, that's fine. You're going to pay more than 67 cents a chip if you want that feature on a custom chip. So average for a stock chip. And that's what we're looking for, stock chips. Now, finally, we're going to talk about the shoulders. The shoulders are very consistent. They are rounded shoulders. And the flatness of the chip is also pretty consistent. So when you look at the flatness of the chip, it is pretty consistent. Like I have pictures, and you can see some little slight blemishes in some other brands. Edge, it's just not perfectly flat. The scrolls do a pretty good job of keeping those flat. So on the edge flatness and on the shouldered edges, I want to give them slightly above average because they do a really good job with that. However, everything else is average. So across the board, quality control, average. Done. All right. So right there, that's the biggest hit, average. These are very purchasable chips. But now let's talk about design. Now, to me, the design, this is where these chips hurt. All right. Because I'm not a big fan of this design. I don't know what it is. It is simple, but it's just not exciting. It doesn't excite me. There's nothing that interesting to me about it. Now, for everybody's different. Some of you may love this chip, but to me, it's just a little too, I hate to use the word rococo because it doesn't quite go all the way around, but these little embellishments right here, just kind of obnoxious. And if you look at the colorations, like the 500, the 50 cent probably wouldn't be played with these, but you look at these, the colorations are pretty similar. And that's not, a game changer necessarily, like this dark purple and this black. And depending on the lighting, they can look pretty similar. But I mean, that's true with so many others. Here are some tiki. Here are the black and blues, the black and blue, the black and purple. You can see the 100s and the 500s here. Those are also pretty close. So you don't really want to, ding them too much for that. But whereas there are some other ones that have very clear cut colors here. I don't know if you can hear, but in the other room, my little boy is making a lot of noise. So the colors and the design of the scrolls are unspectacular to me. So because given the benefit of the doubt, they are designed well and they are consistent across the board. You can see the little starburst in the center there. And you'll notice that the denominations are left to kind of the casino denominations. The lowest you're going to get is 50 cents. Then it jumps up to $1.05, the usual. Whereas there are other brands like the Nile Club here that actually go out of their way to cater to cash games, home cash games, where you have awesome denominations. Look at this, 50 cents, $2, $3, and $2.50. So 50-cent increments here. So you have a $2, $2.50, $3, and 50-cent chip. Great for low denomination cash games. But if you want to gamble, just go to a casino, or better yet, don't gamble and just play your free poker app. But either way, you're going to be limited on the denominations on your scroll chips. Something to be aware of, and it kind of affects the design. So design overall, I'm going to say average, even though I don't like them. So if I rated it just on my personal scale, I would say way below average on design. Doesn't excite me. Now we're going to talk about materials. Now, when you think of a ceramic anything like a cup, you expect a certain noise. But with these chips, you can just not quite the same noise. They are plastic, if not all plastic. I consider ceramic chips, now this is my opinion, this is how I view chips because I've played around with a lot of these chips. Think of them as just hard plastic. The only one that feels really dense, like a true ceramic, are these Nile clubs. These feel like they could chip. These feel like they could potentially be, ceramic. Oh dear, look, I just noticed this edge is not actually lined up with the face. Anyway, that's for a separate video. Let's stay focused here. These are the most dense of all the ceramics I have, right? So the scrolls are maybe second. These are pretty dense. They still sound plasticky. The Nevada Jacks still sound plasticky. They don't feel quite as dense as the Nile Club. Same with the Tiki. Same with the Chipko. Same with, I think that's all the ceramics I have. But all of those feel way more plasticky, for lack of a better word, than the Nile Clubs. All right? Something to be aware of. Now, a lot of people don't like the really hard feel because it's hard to do tricks with them. Like, I can't even get this, like in that James Bond film where one of the villains, I believe, was flipping coins over. Like, I can't even do it. Either way, maybe I have some stock footage I'll roll in. If you're interested in doing something like that, a lot of people don't like these or any ceramics just because they are very slick. And if you've seen the edges. Across the board, ceramics have pretty slick edges. Now, or at least the ones that are available current production. Materials, hard plastic, they wear pretty well. And we are seeing some wear on some of these chips. Now, I like a nice patina to a chip. You can see the wear here. Most ceramics, if not all ceramics, are printed on white blanks. So as they wear, you get these little white sickles around the edges. I like it. I think it's cool looking, like Boba Fett cool, But there will be a lot of you that don't like it. A lot of people like pristine looking new things, all right? Well, I can understand that. So, just be advised, these will wear and Paulson's wear, the competitive as far as in the same price range, clay chips wear just as fast, if not even more rapidly than these. It's just that when these wear, you're going to get that solid coloration underneath it, and you're not going to expose that, white blank. So if that bothers you, you might want to be looking at a clay chip. But my estimation is these will last you decades, if not your whole life. So materials are average. Durability and wear, average. Now, competitive options I showed you many of them already. Nevada Jacks. These are a beautiful looking chip. They're interesting as far as design goes. Quality control, everything else being the same. I would totally get Nevada Jacks before the scroll chips just because they're interesting. Look at how awesome these graphics are, right? And they are very popular, so I can understand how they would be so popular. Plus, I love blue ones. A lot of people don't. Like one of my friends, he's like, who would make a blue one? They should be white. Okay, well, I like them because they're different. All right, well, there we go. Tikis, all right? These are borderline custom. This is the stock set. So, call them semi-custom, whatever you want. That's another option, but it's going to be more. So, you're talking about the scrolls as of, January 2015. You're looking at around 50 cents a chip after shipping. I know places sell them for like 39 cents, but then they charge like $40 or $50 for shipping, and then you end up paying about the same. So for a set of 300 of these scrolls, you're looking to spend between $120, $150. And that all changes every day, it seems like. Nevada Jacks will be a little bit more expensive. The Nile Club will be a little bit less. These are like a cent less per chip, so $10 less maybe. Or whatever, depending on shipping. So they're all very similarly priced, except the Tikis. The Tikis are a little bit more expensive. You're looking at 67 cents a chip, so you're pushing $200 for a small set of these of 300. The Chipkos, unfortunately, have been discontinued. Like sample sets nowadays, like you can see, there are some authentic ones with the Chipko incorporated initials on there, and then you find the common ones, and there's no Chipko mark. So somebody just, made some custom chips to fill out these sample sets. So unfortunately, these are gone. They were sold out to Palm Gaming, I believe. It might be Palm Imports or something. And I don't know what they did with the equipment. I just don't know. But the scrolls are made in China. They're not made by Chipko. Just kind of a China ceramic. All right. So all said and done, would I buy these chips? If I liked the design, yes, I would. I'm actually pretty happy with them. They're, they do their job. Clear denominations. If you like them, I would encourage you to go buy them. Yes, they're that good, but they're not exciting. You know what I mean? They're just average across the board. So I'm a big fan of the love-hate thing. Now we're going to talk about things that I'm not a huge fan of. For example, shuffling. All right. Chips, you can shuffle chips. I mean, who cares? These are pretty slick, so they can be a little difficult to shuffle because if you get them all squared away, sometimes they'll slide apart. Like let me just kind of, see, they can slide apart like that. Especially if you grab like two larger stacks and you're expecting them to kind of, excuse me, stick together. You get them, halfway up the stack shuffled, and then they all just kind of fall apart, right? That was kind of a contrived example, but nevertheless, it can happen. So, not, maybe a shuffler's dream, but they are, relatively easy to shuffle, all said and done. So they're fun to play with. Some people, like I said, don't like the low static coefficient of friction. They say they're too slick. They're hard to stack because they, always slide everywhere. And that's what they mean. Like, you can stack them up like this, but once they start sliding, then you can't just expect them to stick in place. So shuffling, normal. Now let's go, average, whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, all of them are. Let's talk about sound now. Now, a lot of people really are concerned about the sound thing. I think it's because they think they can derive some information about the chip based off of the sound, and I can understand that. So let's push these out of the way a little bit here, and let's roll in a whole bunch of options. I'm going to start with competitive options or things that are in the similar price range, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's the sound of the scroll chips. Nile Club. Like I said, they feel more dense, but, it's hard to say. Nevada Jacks. To me, these sound a little bit more plasticky. Maybe softer plastic is a better term. We'll roll in the Tikis. I think these are more expensive, significantly, but these also sound like softer plastic. And I think that's it. I'll just do these Chipcos just for fun. Unfortunately discontinued. All right, similar price range, Milanos. Compression molded clay. All right, let's jump to some low-end chips here. Some dice chips. 11.5 gram metal insert. 10 gram ceramics. All right, there you go. And what else do we have? I forgot what these are. Next gen. I'm playing with way too many poker chips. And we're going to get into some metal insert chips here. Claysmith. Whatever these are. And we have some Monte Carlo, again, steel insert. See, both plastic, but this one sounds like a much softer plastic, plus that metal insert. Here are some of these super heavy coin insert. Crown coin inlay chips. All right, well, that represents the noise test, the sound test, whatever. To me, not a deciding factor. So yeah, like I said, I can recommend these. They seem like a quality China-made chip, and as far as flatness and edge marks and everything else goes, compared to everything else, they're very average. They're just what you would expect from a ceramic chip. If you're into that, go for it. As for me, I'm going to look for something more exciting. Like, I'm really actually impressed with these Tiki chips. I might get a set of these, because these are love-hate. Either way, these are up for review as well, so we'll discuss that in a future video. Remember to leave a comment about your favorite poker app, and leave a comment about these chips, what you think of them, if you own them, or what you think about them just looking at them here. Thanks for watching. My name is John Hobby.